Hi everybody, if you're living with CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, POTS or related conditions and you feel stuck in stress or tired and wired, shutting down or freezing, overwhelmed by crashes and panic, then understanding how the nervous system is trying to protect you can make a huge difference. So most people think there's something wrong with me, I'm broken. Very often, it's not that you're broken. It's just that your nervous system is stuck in survival mode. And so today I want to share a framework that I found really helpful for helping make sense of what was going on in my body and what could actually help and support healing and recovery. And for finding small, realistic steps back towards regulation and safety. It's called the 5 Fs. So quick clarification before we dive in. In the email, I did mention Dr. Howard Schubiner when I talked about the 5 Fs. Actually, that's a different 5 Fs that I am going to be talking about in a couple of weeks. I was going to do that today. Decided to push that back. So in this session, I'm talking about the more general nervous system survival responses. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and fright. And I'll talk about a sixth response that can be helpful. So Dr. Schubiner, who I've been very lucky to have met last year, and he's a really amazing and lovely man. He has his own 5 Fs, and as I say, I'll talk about those in a couple of weeks. This is about focusing, fighting, fearing, fixing, and getting frustrated. And that's about how we relate to symptoms and how by shifting that we can again support our healing. As I say, I'll cover that in another video soon. So if you're watching live, do feel free to say hello in the chat. Let me know where you are in the world. If you're watching the replay, again, you're welcome to let me know where you are in the world. So do say hi in the chat. Your comments, reactions help other people find this video. So I really appreciate your interaction. It makes it more interesting for me. And I've created some new slides today, so let me know what you think about the slides. Okay, so if you don't know me, my name is Simon Pimenta. I had ME/CFS and fibromyalgia for about 8-9 years, and I went from not being able to walk for 1 minute at times to being able to live my life again, to go to festivals, to work again, to play sport. I did get an injury a little while back which has slowed me down, but life is still great. So let's talk about these 5 Fs, which are the nervous system's main survival responses. So Elena says hi, or Elena, and Ines says hi as well. I know you've got another name, Elena, is it Lynn? But hello, thank you for saying hello. If you have just joined, feel free to say hello in the chat. So yeah, these 5 Fs are the nervous system's main survival responses, the way the brain and body automatically reacts when something feels unsafe. And I want to be really clear right from the start. They're not personality flaws. Doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. They're not a sign of weakness. They're automatic protective responses of the nervous system. The good news is actually we can rewire or change the way we respond to things, and that can keep us in a more regulated state. So many people with these conditions I've mentioned, ME, CFS, fibromyalgia, long COVID, are highly sensitive people, and that's a gift, and we need to know how to manage it. So I am a highly sensitive person, but I'm now much less affected by other people, for instance, and their, let's call it dysfunctional behaviour that's coming from their wounds than I used to be, because I recognise, okay, this person is behaving in that way because of their wounds. Okay, so we're going to gently walk through the 5 Fs, and more importantly, I'll talk about the gentle shift that can help us move from survival towards a bit more safety. And when we feel safe, the body does important healing work. Okay, so who would like some of that? Let me know in the chat. Again, if you've just joined, feel free to say hello. Key point before we begin, the goal is not to eliminate these responses. We're not trying to become someone who never experience those fight, flight, freeze, fawn, fright responses. The goal is more pragmatic, to notice what state we're in and to give the nervous system what it needs. And that's a very important point, because when we actually give ourselves what we need, we experience safety, and that helps us move into regulation. And that's something I teach people who do the MindBody Reconnect course. If you'd like to know more about that, I'll tell you how you can do so at the end. So, healing is often about moving from threat to safety, from alarm to regulation, from resistance to acceptance and support. And let me know in the chat, do you recognise some of those patterns? I was chatting to someone this week who said, I feel like I'm in the threat response. Actually, a few people have said that. A lot of the time, I feel my body feels on edge, on alert. I feel resistant to my experience. I did just see a comment saying, I can't believe I've got CFS. And I understand that, because I felt that way. I suspect maybe you felt that way as well. Let me know in the chat if that was the case. So, hand pink waving. That's from, Eleanor. And again, and also just let me know where you are in the world if you like. Okay, so if you recognise any of those patterns, keep watching. All right, so the first thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to go to my slides, is fight. All right, so this is about in a battle. Fight is about mobilization, the body braces, the mind battles. And in chronic illness, in terms of our caveman, cavewoman ancestors, fighting was about survival. A predator or unfriendly tribe, coming into the area. But in chronic illness, fighting often relates more to fighting symptoms. This shouldn't be happening. I hate this. I need this to go away right now. Why am I still like this? You might feel under attack from people who don't understand the condition. So those responses are all understandable. And I'll come to the comments. So hello from Devon. Hello, user. Let me know your name if you like. And I'll come back to your comment in a moment, Eleanor. Completely understandable. But the nervous system hears that in a war as we're not safe, keep the alarm on. It's as if we're telling the brain there's a hungry saber-toothed tiger outside the cave. So the gentle shift that we want to make is shifting from fight to inner acceptance. So acceptance doesn't mean that we're giving up or that you have to like where you are right now. It just means softening a little and recognizing that, okay, this is what I'm experiencing right now. That doesn't mean it's forever. Okay, maybe right now I need a bit of compassion. Okay, and just a small reduction of that inner fight can actually reduce your stress chemistry in the body. That can support healing. So let's just have a quick look at the comments. Eleanor says, it feels like my guard is always on the lookout, red-eyed and tired, especially the last 2 months. Sorry to hear that. And I can relate to that. Let me know in the chat if you can also relate to what Eleanor's saying. At one point my system was very much on edge and I had to work really hard to, I used to have to practice breathing exercises just to calm my system down a bit. I did actually find, and this isn't a recommendation, I have made a video about this where I talked to a herbalist, but I did find when my system was very much on edge the whole time, or a lot of the time, I did take a herb called ashwagandha. So if you want, check out that video on my YouTube video. I'm not saying it's a total solution, but it just helped. It's an adaptogenic, and it just did seem to help my body move into a bit more of a less wired state. Okay, I still needed to do work to get my body out of that state, all right, so that I didn't need that herb, okay? But that's just a little tip that may be useful for some people, okay? So that's the first thing. So the second thing is, the second response is flight. So in, caveman, cavewoman times, flight would be running away, the urge to escape. But with these conditions, sometimes there is an obvious situation we want to get away from. Maybe someone is making unhelpful comments, disparaging comments, showing a lack of understanding of the condition. But it can also be more subtle. It can be distraction and scrolling, overthinking, staying busy, avoiding stillness. And the system is saying, this experience is uncomfortable, let's get away. Let me know in the chat, is that something you recognize? Distracting, scrolling, overthinking, staying busy, avoiding stillness. All right, I was chatting to someone again this week who's saying, what do I need to do if I'm in my head? And maybe I'll share, if we have time, a little strategy at the end. Otherwise, I will point you in the direction of a resource that you can access. All right, so how do we deal with that? What's the shift that is useful to make? It's useful to shift from flight to processing. And what does that look like? That means connecting to your body. As I say, if we've got time, I'll do a short little relaxation. I aim for these videos to be about 20 minutes. If not, I will tell you where you can access a technique to help you get out of that overthinking. It's step one in a process called the stepping stones, which is part of the MindBody Reconnect. And it's a really powerful, simple strategy to practice, okay? So instead of running away from that experience, we want to gently turn in with curiosity and consider the following questions. How am I feeling right now? What symptom am I experiencing right now that I'm wanting to get away from? How am I responding to this discomfort? For me, when I felt either a symptom or a strong emotion, frustration, upset, I really found it difficult to sit with those emotion sensations. So I would distract myself in ways that actually just dug me deeper into a hole. Because, for instance, I'd watch action movies which were quite stimulating as a way of distracting myself, but they just kind of stressed my system out. Okay, or I'd watch, let's call them gentlemen's movies. And that didn't help me because I'd get all worked up. And what I needed to do is just sit with that discomfort, process it, and then that actually supported my healing. And one time when I did that, I actually fell asleep for about an hour and a half. And I thought, wow, that's how tired my system was. Okay, so consider these questions. Am I being kind to myself right now? What do I really need in this moment? And what's a way of meeting that need? Okay, what's a small step I can take to support myself? So we're not forcing emotions. We're just being open to what we're experiencing. So the third sign or the third strategy of the nervous system is freeze. And let me know in the chat, as we speak, if you recognize any of these. Fight, flight, freeze. Just put 1, 2, 3. 1 for fight, 2 for flight, 3 for freeze. So freeze is about shutdown and stuckness. Freeze is common in ME/CFS and trauma-related patterns. It can feel like shutdown, fog, stuckness, the system feeling tight. I remember having conversations with two friends during COVID, and we did have very different points of view about how COVID was being managed. And one of my old patterns, I realised, was I wouldn't get into conflict or disagreement. But what that meant is my system got tight. And one of my friends in particular was being a bit obnoxious because he was assuming that he was right and everyone else was wrong. And my response was just to get all worked up. And actually what I realised I needed to do was to actually speak up and say, actually, I don't agree with that. Actually, I think what you're saying is is a bit offensive. All right. But when we're in that system, in that response of shutdown, fog, stuckness, the nervous system is saying, this feels too much, I'm overwhelmed. So what's the shift that's useful to make here? Let me know in the chat if you've got any guesses. The shift is that we move into gentle, keyword gentle, mobilization. For people with these conditions, mobilization doesn't mean pushing, all right, or exercising beyond your capacity. It could be a tiny, small stretch. It could be shaking out your hands. It could be rocking gently. It could be just moving your eyes around the room. It could be making a sigh or a yawn. And even as I said that, I could feel the desire to yawn. Okay, let's see if I can start a Mexican yawn. So even imagining movement. And for instance, when my body got stuck because I held it all in, what I found helpful was to kind of stand up and shake and jump around a bit. As I say, do whatever you can do within your current capacity. But recognize that when we're in that stuckness, that is affecting our energy. That's affecting the blood flow, and according to kind of Chinese medicine perspective, when our blood flow gets restricted, then the result is ill health. So even gentle tapping the body down the outside of the arm, up the inside of the arm, doing the other side, doing the front, doing the back, doing the outside of the legs, back on the inside, that's all helping just move things around a bit. I know sometimes I get a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders when I'm angry or I'm suppressing emotion, and so just moving it about, knocking it about, just helps move it. And I can feel, even just doing that, I can feel my body just loosening up a bit. Let me know if that makes sense in the chat. Just put a Y for yes. How often do you do that? Just gently stretch or shake when you feel like you're in that freeze state. Okay, let me know in the chat. So the message is, I'm not trapped, energy can move. And sometimes even 20 seconds is enough to begin shifting that state. As I say, I've been working really hard, been working till 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock the last few nights. So I'm a little bit tired, and I can just feel that just doing what I just did has just loosened my system up a bit. So the fourth nervous system response is Inez is saying yes, so thank you for that interaction, Inez. So the fourth response is Fawn. This is people pleasing for safety. So again, we don't want to judge ourselves for doing this response. Fawn is when the nervous system tries to feel safe by appeasing, and it might look like over-agreement, avoiding conflict, silencing your needs, staying nice even when it isn't okay. I remember I've got a good friend, but when we first met, when I was at Polly, she found me excruciating because I was too nice, and I can recognise what she's saying because that's how I was. You know, I was wanted to be nice and liked. I learned to worry less about what other people think. So often this developed at an early stage, and we learned that if I keep others happy, I stay safe, connected, accepted. Okay, and the shift is to move from fawn to authenticity and true connection. So this might look like expressing a small preference, gently disagreeing. Is that how you see things? I see things differently. Setting a tiny boundary, speaking up kindly. And this is very healing because it slowly helps us reconnect to our true self. So let me know in the chat, is this an area that you need to work on? So shifting from fawn to authenticity and true connection. Just put a 4 in the chat if you recognise that you've got some work to do in this area. So far, not many numbers here. So I'm guessing you're nailed in all those areas. So let me know. I'm very interested. Only if you want to. So this helps us develop that connection and sends the message that connections that matter will survive my honesty. The unhealthy ones might not. Okay, and the question is that okay? If someone can't, I actually had to speak to someone quite frankly this week. Maybe I was a little bit too blunt, but I think, I needed to make a point and they didn't like it. That's okay. All right. Real safety comes from authenticity, not self-abandonment. And I remember working with someone who had that realization, oh my goodness, in trying to be accepted, by trying not to be abandoned by others, I'm abandoning myself. Okay, so the fifth one is fright. This is when we get into a state of panic and overwhelm. Fright is the intense alarm state when we're panicking, spiraling, we're feeling overwhelmed, feeling the sense that something terrible is happening, and the nervous system is just being flooded with that urgency. Okay, is that something you've experienced? I used to experience panic attacks, and I remember going away one weekend to this conference and I just felt anxious the whole time, and I only realized years later the reason why I was feeling very anxious and panicked, because I was quite upset because two people were supposed to be coming with me to the conference, two friends, and they both blew me out, and I suppressed all that emotion, and that's why my system was on edge. So what is the shift that is useful to make here? We want to consider that it can be useful to shift from that fright mode to pausing and connecting to your wise self. Okay, I have created a technique called the See It method that helps you do this. And if you'd like that access to the videos, they're in a private Facebook group. Put C as in SEE in the chat. I will add the link below the video. All right. So that's a super powerful technique that normally I only give access to that to people doing my Building Resilience course. But I decided, I'm trying to think when I did that, was that the beginning of this year? Yeah, to offer it to everybody. I think there's about 200 people in that Facebook group. So if you want access to that resource, put C in the chat, SEE. All right. There's no charge for that. It's a super useful tool that I'm pretty certain is going to be helpful to you. So when we make that shift, let's just go back to the slides for a moment. From fright to pause and connecting to the wise part of ourselves, we can respond to that frightened part with care. We can pause, we can slow our breathing, we can orient to the room, we can put our hands on heart. Some people like putting their hands on their cheeks, or hand on heart, hand on heart, hand on belly. And we can say, I recognise you're feeling this way, and that's okay. I'm here with you now. Let's take one step at a time. And that part of us that's feeling scared to begin with might not trust you if you haven't been taking care of that part, if you've been frustrated with that part. But with time, that part can get to trust that wise part of you. So this is nervous system reparenting. We're not doing anything by force, we're not forcing calm, but by cultivating safety. So these 5 F's are not the problem, they're protective patterns. Symptoms can sometimes be part of this protective system. It's not proof that you're broken, it's signals from your body letting you know that it wants more safety and support. Your emotional brain communicates via the body, via emotions, sensations, and symptoms. And our job is to listen, to decipher the message and take appropriate action. And when we do, the body shifts out of those dysregulated states into a more regulated state. Okay, so just putting it all together, we can shift from fight to acceptance, flight to processing and becoming more present, freeze to gentle mobilization, fawn to authenticity, fright to pausing and connecting. So you can always ask the question, which F am I in right now? And what is one small step towards safety? So I'll come to your comment in a moment, Vesna. So we can always ask that question, which F am I in right now? And I'll add an extra F, okay? A way of experiencing regulation that often gets forgotten. It might not be what you think. Okay, it's fun, all right? So sometimes the nervous system doesn't need us to be forcing a shift through effort. It shifts through play, warmth, connection, laughter, beauty, small moments of joy. Healing isn't about working seriously all the time, okay? Sometimes it's that safety is learned through play and lightness. So I was mentioning this, kind of having these conversations with these two friends, but we'd also spend time having a laugh, doing a quiz, playing a game online called Puzzgrid. So check it out. It's a fun exercise you can do. So let me just look at the comments. What we have to put in the chat to be part of the group. Put the word C is in ICU. Let me just type that in the chat. But I will put that when I finish this, and we've kind of got nearly up to half an hour. So I'm going to put the link to the Facebook group and make sure it's in the description below the YouTube video straight after I finish this call. So just check in a few minutes, okay? So thanks for letting me know. So user says yes. All right, perfect. So if you notice yourself fighting, fleeing, fawning, panicking, that's an opportunity. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. That's a moment, an opportunity for compassion. Not what's wrong with me, but wow, my nervous system is trying to protect me. Our nervous system is incredibly fine-tuned early warning system. So we can learn to use it and we can learn to work with it. Okay? So consider what would help me feel a bit safer right now. So as we've hit half hour, if you want a simple guided way of start practicing this, I've created a 4-minute mind-body reset. And it's a gentle exercise to help your nervous experience a bit more safety and connection. The link is below the video. So watch that video. I encourage you to practice that. It's a simple exercise you can do in a minute or two, and I encourage you to do that a few times a day. Once you watch that 4-minute video, if you wish, you can also watch the rest of the video, which is where I explain the MindBody Reconnect. And this is a deeper training to help you understand your signals more clearly and use them to support healing in daily life. So watch that video because people have said they find it, just watching that video, helpful. And of course, if you're ready for more, then watch that video. You're welcome to have a chat if you're interested in learning the MindBody Reconnect. So keep taking steps no matter how small, and dare to dream big dreams. I see people have requested C, so once I finish this, I'm going to pop the link below this video for the See It method. Yeah, I really encourage you to watch that. Vesna says, thank you. You are very welcome. Thanks everybody for joining me. Appreciate that. If you like this video, leave a comment, leave a like, share the link to someone else. If you've got topics you'd like me to cover, let me know. But for now, I'm going to say thanks. Keep going. Dare to dream big dreams, as I say. Bye for now.